If two people consent to doing something, does that make it automatically good or moral? Or is there a higher form of consent that we have to look to? Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Dad?
James, I think this is a really important conversation because we look at consensual permission as all we need to do anything, especially if you're two adults. You can't really talk about, the consent of children because they're not of age to really make the kind of wise, responsible decisions and understand how it impacts their life. But essentially, two adults can engage in all kinds of activity, even creepy, weird stuff that, is like self-destructive. But in some countries, it's perfectly legal to do it as long as you have consent. So where are you going with this?
So this topic got raised in my mind because of a sermon from John MacArthur that I was watching.
Johnny Mac is the bomb.
Mac, he is.
The OG Bible teacher.
And in this sermon, John MacArthur was saying that sin isn't just doing something that is wrong, but it's taking something that doesn't belong to you, that you have no right to. It is not yours to take.
Yeah.
And by that, you are overreaching God and getting rid of his plan and his path to try to impose your will on something that you want in the moment right now.
That is such a perfect picture of what Adam did in the garden. He took something that was not his to take, and he was overreaching God's perfect plan, thinking that he had a better one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so that statement, obviously, it made my mind just spin, and I was thinking about all the different aspects of life and all of the different types of sin that there are, but it really made me think of relationships, and then it led into the idea of consent in a relationship. I think so many times we think of consent as being almost horizontal. It's between me and the person I'm in the relationship with. If we both agree that this thing is acceptable and we both have a desire to do this thing, it almost, in today's culture, makes it seem as though it is good or it is okay.
Yeah.
It's permissible.
That's right.
Because of the idea of consent.
That's right.
But through reading the Bible, understanding the depravity of man's heart, along with experiencing the depravity within my heart, seeing the depravity within other people's hearts, also comes with the recognition that people make bad decisions. People are broken. People do things that they shouldn't do.
And they give consent where they shouldn't be giving consent.
Yeah, so the idea of horizontal consent, me between you, if we both say it's right and wrong, has a lot of room for error because we are full of error. We are full of depravity and bad decision making. So instead, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking the idea of consent should be, yes, consensual between horizontally, but also vertically.
Ooh, that's deep. Tell me more.
Well, it comes into the idea of, is this something that I am trying to forcibly take because I want this in the moment, or is this a gift that is being given to me by God right now? Do I have consent to partake in this thing, or is it something that I'm just trying to pick off of the tree when it's not ripe yet?
James, this is so important. Man, like you said, this can apply to so many different areas in our life where we're taking things we think of relationally, right? Like, do I have this person's consent? If I don't have their consent, well, then it's an act of violence. But if I have their consent, that means it's okay? Well, no, not necessarily. And especially when we get into the area of sexual integrity, with something so sacred, we have to remember that we must have God's consent. Without his consent, nothing is okay. Our consent does not supersede God's.
Yeah, and I think that the Bible talks about this concept, and it talks about men, and it talks about how there's a way that seems right to a man, but leads to death, but God's way leads to life. And I think when we're talking about this idea of relationships and consent and this whole sphere that so much of our lives revolve around these relationships, we have to take into account the depravity of who we are, that just because we have a desire does not make it right.
Yep.
From the heart flows wickedness, depravity, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, sexual immorality.
That's right.
All of these things. So just because you feel like you're in love, just because you want to express that, does not mean that you're in the correct season yet to fulfill that ultimate form of expression of love.
That's right.
And what you might be attributing as love is actually damaging the person. And you're trying to take something unknowingly that does not belong to you and is going to hurt this person in the future.
Yeah. James, what you're saying is it's so essential. You're starting with the depravity of the heart. The scriptures say that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. It's human nature to be selfish. It's human nature to be prideful and to take things if we can get away with it. And if we start with that biblical way of thinking, then we can see that just because I feel like doing something doesn't make it okay. It's not just about like, well, you can do what you want and I can do what I want. No, neither one of us can do what we want. We are only permitted to do what God wants. And he gives us great freedom and liberty to do what we ought to do. But that's never freedom to do what we shouldn't be doing. And that's so important because in our culture today, we often hear people saying, well, look, two consenting adults can do anything they want. That reminds me of an insane, crazy story that was back in 2003, I think. And there was this German guy out of Rottenburg, Germany, I remember the name, who actually put out an ad saying that he was looking to slowly cannibalize himself and enjoy the meal together with a willing consensual participant. Someone answered the ad and they began dinner. Disgusting. So you have two consensual adults, and that was the weirdness of it, is like, well, is there a law against cannibalism? And nothing was forcibly done, so you can't say the guy like forced him. That he offered in an ad and someone consented. What makes that morally wrong? Well, you've got to appeal to some higher standard. Say, dude, you can't eat your fingers. You can't, right? You don't get to eat people. So then what is that higher standard that the people of Rottenburg and the people in America should be looking to?
Yeah, and even in my own life, I've seen so many failed relationships and just toxic relationships, and there's this common theme where I know a lot of people who have compromised on what they believe to be right and given consent to do certain things because of whether it's fear or insecurity, where I'm scared that you won't like me if I don't offer this to you. I'm scared that I won't be enough for you if I don't give you this part of me. So people have alternate motives for why they give consent. But as a man, I would say, and a woman, but us speaking as men, our main allegiance and our highest form of consent should come from what God says in his word, what God says in our hearts.
Yep.
Which is this a gift that I am giving to you? Or is this something that you are just wanting due to your flesh?
Yeah.
And the question becomes, what will you do as the man? Will you take it for yourself? Or will you appeal to the higher power of God? And I think once you have this mindset, it creates in you a grateful heart. In my mind, once again, I think in pictures. So I think of a massive chalice on my left, and I think of a shot glass on my right. The chalice on the left is the man who expects all of these different things in the relationship. I expect to have this part of you that doesn't belong to me. All of my friends do, so should I. And due to the man's expectation of these things, his cup is never satisfied. It's never full, this massive chalice. There's always room to have more. And due to that, that cup never overflows unto others. But then you have the man on the right, and he has a shot glass. And his cup is easily filled because he expects little and is grateful for the much that is given to him. So his cup is continuously overflowing unto others, while the man on the left in his chalice is never satisfied.
James,
if we can start thinking of good things given to us in the right time by God as a gift, instead of trying to forcibly take what we think we ought to have, our mindset goes from entitlement to gratitude. And gratitude leads to joy, peace, contentment in who we are, what we have, and gives us a spirit that is willing and excited to give to others.
James, this fits exactly with what I've been studying in Psalm 23, the most famous passage in the whole Bible, the 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. But I've been studying it in the New Living Translation, which gives fresh insights to me. And it leads to the chalice versus the little shot glass that you talked about. It goes like this: the Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. I should not have these expectations and this attitude of entitlement. Like you said, I have all that I need because the Lord is my shepherd. And then it goes on to say, you let me lie down in green meadows and you lead me beside peaceful streams. And then it says, you protect me. You prepare a feast in the presence of my enemies. And then it says, my cup of blessing overflows. That's the little shot glass. That's exactly what you're saying, is exactly the attitude and mindset that God wants us to have.
Yeah. And I think it's so much more than just relationships, this mindset that it encompasses. Because once you have this grateful mindset instead of an entitled mindset, that affects not only your relationships with the people that you love, but also your willingness to give to others. If you're grateful for every cent that you have coming into your bank account because you know that you are not entitled to that, how much more willing will you be to give the excess to others?
That's right.
So if you're looking at your cup as a quarter full because it's a massive cup, then you're probably going to hoard all of that wealth.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at your shot glass, which has the couple pennies that it needs, but it's overflowing with others, you'll be so much more willing to give those others away.
Yeah. James, this is so important. If you're watching this and you struggle with disappointment, people constantly disappointing you, your expectations are probably too high. If you are frustrated with God for not coming through on the requests that you have been making through your prayers, your expectations are probably not aligning with the reality of what God actually wants to give you. So bring your expectations down and realize that you and I deserve nothing, that everything is gravy, everything is grace, everything is a gift. What do I actually deserve from God? You know what I can expect 100%? Because of my sin, all I can expect is his wrath and his judgment. That's actually what I deserve, not to have the cup of my wants filled. And so if I actually get in line with what I really deserve, all of a sudden, my cup is overflowing with blessings. And if I'm a Christian, if I'm saved, then I have a shepherd who's making sure that I have all that I need. And then every tiny bit of affection from your spouse, that's a gift. We all have responsibilities, but we can't demand it from anybody. The only one who can demand things from us or from our spouse or someone we're in a relationship with is God. But for you and me, their obedience to God is an undeserved gift to us. So if we see things that way, all of a sudden, like you said, I'm happy, I'm satisfied, I'm content, I'm grateful, and I'm joyful for anything that I get, and my cup is overflowing.
Yeah, and I think that two people in a relationship, both having that God first mindset, do I have consent from God first before you, will be fulfilling their roles and their duties diligently to each other, both giving, both receiving.
And both grateful.
Yeah.
Back to this idea of thinking that as long as something is consensual and two people give consent to doing something, that makes it okay or morally good. Not the case. We can find stories all throughout the scriptures. King David, Bathsheba, if they both were consenting to that illegitimate encounter, did it make it okay and morally good? No, of course not. That was part of David's downfall, that's called adultery. And in our culture today, our moral standard of the Bible has been ejected from common culture. Therefore, what if two men give consent to be in a romantic relationship and get married? Does that make it okay? Well, the Supreme Court says so. Yes. Same thing with two women. There are other groups that say they have members that consent to doing bizarre and dangerous things that they want to be okay too, based simply on the idea that if we give consent, therefore it's okay. And clearly those things are never okay. So this is really, really important. Just because two adults say so, that doesn't make something okay in the eyes of God. Just because something's legal doesn't mean it's not sinful. And just because something's not illegal doesn't mean it's okay for you to do it, because we know there is a higher standard of consent. There is a higher law, and it's a perfect moral standard, and it's called the law of God.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that nobody wants to actually live in a world where the idea of consent is the ultimate authority to which people abide by.
Yeah.
Nobody
right.
wants to live in that.
Nobody does.
Women don't want to live in that.
No.
Children don't want to live in that. Men don't want to live in that. Nobody does. There has to be a higher standard of morality an objective morality in which we follow. And the only way that that is possible is if we believe in what is right and wrong according to God's word.
That's right. I also think of how this plays out in false religion and cults. You have essentially what amounts to a consensual relationship between the cult leader and the congregants. They're both consenting to this set of ideas that, in Jim Jones's case, led to this mass suicide thing. It was clearly awful, terrible. It was wrong, but it was consensual. So what makes it actually wrong? And that then connects to relationships between two individuals. When there is manipulation going on by one of the parties who's maybe charismatic, like that cult leader, and is able to play on somebody's insecurities or their ignorance and get them to consent to things that are not good for them, does that make it okay in the relationship for a man to manipulate and achieve consent from a woman just because he happens to be charismatic, and you can't blame him because she gave consent?
Yeah. So if you're watching this right now, I think it's good to just ask yourself, is this thing that I want a gift from God in the correct season, or is it something that I'm trying to forcibly take due to my own desires for it?
That's right. Also, maybe ask yourself this question. Is this thing I'm giving consent to, I'm consenting to engage in this kind of behavior with my partner, even if this is a person that I love with all of my heart? Are you giving that consent because God has given you consent to give a gift that is really meant to be reserved for later or for someone else? Maybe it's not the right time. And why are you giving consent and violating your own convictions? Is it out of fear that you might lose the relationship? God is your shepherd. You have everything that you need. He's going to lead you along right paths. He'll never let you down. What if you didn't have to walk through life alone? So many men experience deep loneliness. But what if there was a place where you, a man, could stand shoulder to shoulder with other men, fight for truth, challenge one another to grow, and live in a culture of honor? That's Red Truck Men. It's built and run by my friend Steve, and it's not just a group, it's a brotherhood. It's a place to be known, to be called higher. In a world that is confused about manhood, Red Truck Men calls us back to God's original design, being strong, humble, courageous, and faithful. When you're a husband, when you're a dad, or a young guy searching for purpose, or maybe you're just a guy who's tired of sitting on the sidelines, you belong here. Because when men of honor link arms and they walk together in truth, families are strengthened, communities change, and legacies are built. So don't wait. Find your tribe. Step into the battle. Win the war. Visit redtruckmen.com. That's redtruckmen.com to learn more and join the brotherhood today. We hope you enjoyed this dangerous conversation, James.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified when the next episode comes out. And leave us a comment in the comment section below so we can read that on a future Monday episode. Have a good day.